Good afternoon. Today is December 22nd, 2011, and it is about 1:30 in the afternoon here in New Bedford on Belleville Avenue at the old Aerovox site. We have a short press conference to announce the completion of the demolition and the paving over this site, and then talk about what's going to take place next. I want to start by saying the following. First, Aerovox, as you know, was a plant in New Bedford, located at this location. It's now up on in the industrial park. Aerovox produced electrical capacitors, among other things, and at the time that they manufactured these, it was common to use PCB and other solvents in the manufacturing process. This is 5-6 decades ago. And then it was realized, as many manufacturing processes that the U.S. and around the world employed, that in fact some of the solvents posed potential risk to our environment and people. And along the way, this process was discontinued. Aerovox moved, and we were left with a plant that had used this solvent for 30 to 40 years, and it became very clear that this plant and this site needed to be cleaned up. This has been a project that involved the federal, state, and local government over a long period of time. And when I took office, it was in the final stages of trying to resolve exactly who would be responsible for taking down the plant and exactly what the process would be. I want to thank our city solicitor, Irene Shaw, for spearheading the effort on the city side, along with Scott Alphonse, many department heads, Jim Ritchie, and countless others within the city, including city workers who kept an eye on the plant while the final logistics were being planned out to make sure that this plant did not in any way pose a environmental issue for the neighborhood. I also want to acknowledge, and he will participate in the program, we had a tremendous amount of cooperation from our city council. I know city council Steve Martins from Ward 2 is here. I see Steve, and I'll ask him to speak in a few minutes, but the fact is that details were the key of this project. It was a major legal issue, but details were the key in this project. When I first took office, there was a proposal to implode the plant within itself. So implode it within itself and bury it. And it was very clear that that was something that no one in the city wanted, and certainly EPA, DEP, and our congressional delegation did not want to see happen. And I'm pleased to report to you that an awful lot of debris, an awful lot of contaminated material, and we'll go over that in a minute, has been trucked off this site. We're now in a situation where the site has been capped temporarily while further testing is done, and then remediation of the land site, and then we are off to the development stage. There are a few other people that I want to acknowledge before I introduce our guest speakers. Janice Falvey from the EPA, who I met when I first took office, who has kept an eye on a number of different environmental issues in New Bedford, worked very closely with the community, has done a fantastic job in not only keeping everyone posted as to what was happening here, not only in the beginning planning stages with a number of neighborhood meetings, but then also setting up I'm not sure if it was a Twitter type of account or if it was a email account or a voicemail. I don't know what it was, a combination of all of them, I think, but every single day we were notified exactly what the status of this demolition project was, which was terrific in keeping the public informed. And every single day the message came out, it's a green day. There is no air contamination. There were many air monitors throughout this site. I came by several times. They used water to control it, as well as other very modern techniques in taking down the building and removing the site debris. And Jenith kept us informed the whole time. Doug Gautreaux, my governmental relations individual for EPA, has been involved from day one and done a fantastic job in letting us know. And then we have Jim Owens, who's been our again, community representative and liaison in a number of projects. I think that on the DEP side, Molly Cody has been tremendously helpful, Dave Johnson, and you're going to hear from the head of DEP in a minute, Ken Kemmel. But the point of this is it's been a big team effort, and it's produced a tremendous result for our city, and for that we're extremely thankful to everyone who's been involved. Last thing I want to say is community interests have been involved from day one in the Aerovox issue as well as many other environmental issues in our city. Hands Across the River certainly has played a major part in making sure that we, at every time we look at something like this, look at every single issue. Wasted Away, which was the forerunner for Clean, has certainly been involved. And then the Buzzards Bay Coalition, which is an organization that not only has looked at the estuaries, but right out through Buzzards Bay and protected this resource like no other organization in the country. We really appreciate them as well. So what we're going to do now is turn the mic over to Kurt Spalding. Kurt is the regional administrator for EPA Region 1, the Environmental Protection Agency Region 1. It's an appointment that took place now, I think approximately 3 years ago. Second day, as he likes to point out, he was in New Bedford talking about the issues that we have in New Bedford, and has been a steward for the environment in New Bedford ever since. He comes from Rhode Island, where he worked as an activist and involved in a number of different projects to make sure that the environment is clean in Rhode Island. Neighbors mean we need to make sure we're clean across our bays, across our land masses, across our air, our atmosphere. So we really appreciate all the efforts of Kurt, and I'm going to ask him to come up and explain what EPA did here and where we go from here.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, everyone. Before I say anything else, I want to congratulate the mayor on his service to New Bedford. I think all of us would agree New Bedford's a very different place because of this mayor. So congratulations, sir, on your tenure. Now, this is a very exciting day for New Bedford and EPA to see this, what it is today, this open site ready for more cleanup, but also ready for redevelopment. Our role in this first phase was to demolish the Aerovox building, and it's been finished up successfully. And I too want to congratulate the EPA team that was involved, Jeanette, and of course Jim Owens, who's director of all our cleanup programs in New England, a real national leader. Of course, Doug, who helps out. But more than that, just the whole team that came together to make this happen. We've done this with almost no one controlling all the risks that went with this site, and they were substantial. Our dust suppression techniques were especially successful. I came down personally to witness what was being done. Had a lot of questions because, like you, I'm not an expert in how all this gets done, but you could see immediately that the precautions were state of the art for how to take care of a site like this. During the demolition, we had 1,200 trucks carrying approximately 70,000 cubic yards of contaminated debris were taken off site and disposed of properly in a landfill in Michigan. So today, you no longer have a fire threat, an eyesore. Today you have potential, great potential for the future of New Bedford. When I travel around New England, I like to make this point. EPA is about building the foundation of a new prosperity in New England. By cleaning up sites like this, cleaning up water like that, we allow people like Mayor Lang and some of his colleagues here in New Bedford and all the strong players in Massachusetts who advance economic development to kick in and do their job. So we're very proud to be in that role, to be that foundation builder for what's ahead. And I'm really excited what's going to happen in New Bedford over the next couple of years. Scott's right. I've been working on coastal systems for 20 years, and I see a river that's coming back, probably full of striped bass certain times of year. This is very exciting, and what's exciting here is very, very, very good. So I want to also say one last thing, and that's the fact that we are very privileged to be working with the quality of people that DEP brings to the table on these kinds of issues. And of course, the leader of that quality force is Ken Kemmel. So is it my job to introduce Ken? Good. Gives me that opportunity. But truly, this is a site where we've done a phase. I think DEP's now going to do a phase. The city's doing a phase. this jigsaw puzzle of collaboration, cooperation is only possible because of the kind of leaders next to me who demand their people take that point of view. And I like to say I demand the same thing. So Ken, come aboard. Come on up.
Thank you, Kurt, and thank you, Mayor Lang. I'm so excited to be here today. I think I just want to start, Mayor, by saying what a pleasure it's been to work with you in the past number of years on a lot of different projects, the terminal, this one, Parker Street, and you know, one of the big challenges with government is you have so many things on your radar screen, and so what do you spend your time on and what gets to the top of the pile? And I would say, Mayor Lang, that you are a tremendous resource for your community, making sure that the issues in New Bedford are on the top of the state's pile, on the top of our radar screen, and it's because you're forceful, but you're also really in command of the facts. And when we sit down with you, in a couple of minutes, we get a good summary of what we need to be thinking about, and we had a meeting this morning where that happened, and I really admire the way you've led your city and the vision you've shown, and I'm going to miss you, but I'm sure we'll establish a great relationship with your successor as well. So thank you. And, DEP did play a part in getting this building down and being part of the technical team to make this happen, and I'm very proud of the people at DEP, Gerard Martin, Molly, Rebecca, Ben Erickson, who's not here. You all really put in a lot of time to make this successful. And now the keys, so to speak, are being turned over. The site will now go to the next phase, which is the assessment phase, where we'll really figure out the full extent of the contamination, which will then put us in a position to figure out what the remedy should be, and then ultimately the economic redevelopment, which is the light at the end of the tunnel, and the thing that makes all of this worthwhile is that something new is going to get built here on top of this area. And I just want everyone in New Bedford to know that DEP is going to be there. We're going to return the phone calls, we're going to review the reports, and we're going to make sure that this moves in an expeditious but thorough way so that the public is protected and the environment is protected, but ultimately some new economic development opportunity is going to happen here, and we're excited to be part of that. So you have a lot to be proud of to get this building down. I understand that something like 3,000 trucks, 68,000 cubic yards of material were transported out of here with no accidents, no injuries, no public health problem, no complaints. So that's just a tremendous achievement, and you should all feel really good about it, but that's what we've done up to now. We have a bright future ahead as well, and we're excited to be part of that. So thank you for having us here.
Then what I'd like to do is introduce our city councilman who comes from Ward 2, who was involved on a day-to-day basis with this project, and we're really very grateful for his support. That's Steve Martin. Steve, please come up.
Thank you, Mayor Lang. I don't want to repeat what was said, but first I want to thank DEP and EPA for making this possible. From the staff at EPA, I also want to acknowledge them, only because I want to initiate and talk about the community involvement in this area. And I think EPA can agree with me and the staff there that from day one, when we started launching the process to demolish the Aerovox site, EPA wanted to make sure that we involved with the community. And it may not be the easiest thing that they had to deal with, but every single day they made sure that they came out and updated the abutters of this property, advertised in our local paper, the Standard Times, WBSM, Cable Access, about the meetings so the neighborhood can get involved. And every day EPA was there to involve them in the process, from the safety to the ideas to making sure that there's a trailer out here to involve constituent services, which has gone a very long way, to even making sure that they update on the website the air quality so the neighborhood can follow on the website. It's little things like that that EPA has done to involve the community that the community certainly appreciated. And that did go a very long way, because from my office on the city council, we haven't received one complaint from the neighborhood. We haven't received one complaint from the abutters of this property. And it's because EPA continued to work with our neighborhood and made sure that their needs were met. So I want to acknowledge them and thank them. from the city solicitor's office, from Scott Alphonse to staff in DPA, from this administration who was extremely active. I also want to thank them because sometimes they go under acknowledged, and they also put a lot of work into projects such as this. I know that, as the commissioner has stated, and Mayor Lang, that the process still continues to clean up this property, but as excited as I was as a city councilor to be part of this process, to knock down the old Aerovox site that took decades to do, I'm even more excited now to continue with the next administration, and I know Mayor Lang will continue to stay involved in the area about the redevelopment of this property, which I know that the community continues to be a part of, and I want to continue to be a part of that as well. So thank you, Mayor Lang.
Thanks, Steve, very much. Thank you. Now, I just want to say a few more things, and then we'll have any questions that anyone may have. This is an 11-acre site. This was perhaps the most contaminated site that we had in our city. Certainly the most contaminated building and plant that we had in our city. This involved a tremendous amount of planning, as everyone's talked about, but it also involved police, fire, city employees involved in, as I said, protecting the property and then help coordinating all and every contingency that we might face. It has about 450 feet of frontage on the Acushnet River. We are about maybe a half a mile from Wood Street. We are about a mile and a half from 195. We're at the heart of the Acushnet River base. Just to the south, we have Cliftex 1 and 2 about to begin for senior housing as well as market rate housing. We have Victoria Riverside, which just opened, which is filling up very quickly. I believe they're about 75 to 80% full at this time. You have Whalers Place and Whalers Cove, a community of people living in areas where people formerly worked in mill conversion. We also have a great mixed use component here because we still have manufacturing going on. We have Precise here. We have Joseph Abood. We have we have a number of different mills that are actually providing jobs and still doing manufacturing in this general area. We're going to be able to live and work in this area and also have recreational opportunities. This 11-acre site is something that I know the community will come together on. Number of different meetings and charrettes to talk about what 11 acres on the Acushnet River can provide for our city. But we know that it's going to be a great project. It'll be economic development. It'll expand our quality of life and our tax base. Most importantly, it's taken away a vestige from the industrial era that clearly was no longer useful and was, as a result of the industrial era, a place where we had a tremendous contamination issue. Now, what I'd like to do is ask everyone who spoke to come back up, and if there are any questions from either the Standard Times, Dan McDonald is here, Taylor Cormier is here from WBSM, if there are any questions.
What are the next steps? What are the immediate next steps, and longer term, what's the vision for the site?
And also, I'm gonna call up Cheryl and Scott as well in case they want to weigh in on any of this. So Scott, come on up. Cheryl, come on up. Who wants? Kurt, you want to take that first?
Speak in the microphone, please. At this point, the site has been made. Whoops. So you can hear. At this point, the site's been made safe. Those questions are not answered at this point. I mean, as we've heard today, much more needs to be done. I think, as Ken described, there's more environmental work to be done, and there has to be the charrette process to figure out what's the best use down here. But I think we can say that the process is moving forward now, and it should move forward very quickly now that the big problem, getting the building off the site, is out of the way.
And Ken, do you want to comment on that?
Sure. I mean, I think the way that goes forward is Aerovox is obligated to now do a complete assessment of what's underneath where the building was. Those will be reports that will be submitted to DEP. We'll be reviewing them and approving them every step of the way. But we do anticipate that work's going to happen expeditiously. And once the site's assessed, then you can make reasonable decisions about the extent of the cleanup, taking into account what the likely future uses will be. And so all of that is spelled out in a legal agreement, and we expect that will unfold.
What's the timeline for the assessment?
I don't know if there's an individual timeline for the assessment. I know that the whole process needs to be done in 5 years, but we certainly hope it can be done well before that.
Scott, you want to speak on that?
I'd just like to add that throughout this process, the city will be involved in the review of documents that the consultant that's working for AVX is going to be preparing. And I think the assessment phase will last about a year and a half from the date at which the Mass Department of Environmental Protection approves the scope of work.
If you ask me what the time frame should be, I agree with Ken. We're hoping 2 to 3 years, and we'll begin to see development on the site. I think that it's interesting. Matt Morrissey is here, the good-looking young gentleman over there. Matt went up to Harvard, to the School of Design, and we spent 1 week, and this is 2 years ago, I believe, with this site, with the dimensions, with this entire area, and had a number of different planning projects in which it showed economic development, recreational use, use complementary to the manufacturing that exists here now. So it was a real eclectic type of plan. There was one plan that showed a Qatar type of hotel. I think it was 240 stories. We nixed that because we felt that would not get permitted. But it involved hotel, restaurants. We think probably more realistically, recreational, some restaurants, perhaps complementary uses to the factories that are here now. But a completely different image. You can see, if you just turn around, you can see we are involved in the near north end. Tremendous amount of housing, residents all over. That's what Steve alluded to when he said the whole community worked together on this. This is going to be a great piece of property. This is 11 acres in between an area that was heavily industrialized, and we feel very, very good about it. If you start adding up between Fairhaven Mills, then you go up to Whaler Place, Whalers Cove, Victoria, Riverside Park. You come up here now, and you have these factories full, Cliftex 1, 2, and then this site. This city has been changed. In a short period of time, the city has been changed, and the near north end changed for the better. You've got the Cushionett Avenue Marketplace development that is going to begin this spring. The near north end, I think, is a very exciting area, very cosmopolitan. Steve Martins represents it. I think he'd agree wholeheartedly that probably more has been done to change the next decade or two up in the near north end than perhaps any other section of the city. So we're very excited about it.
How much did the demolition and the removal of the materials cost, and how much is the assessment going to cost?
All right, and I'll ask, do you need some technical people to come up?
Who's got the numbers on the actual cost of it?
20, right? Yeah.
About 9.8 million.
Okay.
Total project is 20 though, right? Total project cost, I understand from staff, is 20 million.
Okay. And who's paying for that? I mean, is Aerovox paying for all that, or how does that work?
Molly, do you want to come up and give us a hand here?
AVX, which is the company that we're talking about, Aerovox, but it's actually AVX Inc. They paid for the demolition,
Okay.
roughly 10 million. They're still paying
Okay.
for it. And then the city was responsible for the transportation and disposal,
Okay.
which Jim just said was, I believe, 9.8 million through a cooperative agreement with the EPA that I believe had been paid into by PRPs in the past. So it's about 20 million, and the estimated cost at this point for what will go into the assessment and cleanup is somewhere in the 13 million range. That's what's estimated right now.
So is it fair to say that this work to date cost the city about 10 million, or
No, you know what? I want to call Irene up because she negotiated this, and she can get. No, Molly, don't go anywhere, please. But I want to call Irene up because the answer to this was a situation where nobody standing up here had anything to do with the Aerovox plant or with the contamination, and that was the position we all took. I mean, every agency and the city. So, Irene, why didn't you explain that?
The $9.8 million that the city spent on transportation and disposal was, as you heard, funded through the EPA. So there were no city funds, except for the fact of the city personnel that was used in the 4.5 to 5 years period where we were negotiating what the settlement agreements would look like and how this project would look, and what you see today is part of that. It was a multi-party agreement. We met as frequently as 2 and 3 times a month at times. And so that was really the in-kind services that the city provided. So the city was not out of pocket. The city did receive a certain amount of limited funds for ongoing maintenance, as well as for personnel that we dedicated to this site during the period of demolition. And but other than that, there was no appropriated funds that were used for this project.
Is there any indication of what can and cannot be built on this site right now? I mean, can you have a soccer field here if you wanted to? Can you build a restaurant here right now if you wanted to?
Let me try and answer that, and then I'll give it to the experts. Right, it's premature to decide what we may or may not build here. I think there's some assumptions that this is going to have restrictions on it when we're all said and done, regardless of to what degree it's cleaned. I think what we all tried to do, and what Irene worked very hard on with EPA and DEP, was making sure that we had the highest level of use possible. There was a lowest common denominator that was started with that we found completely unacceptable, and we worked our way up. So can we envision kids playing here when it's been remediated? Absolutely. Do we think that we will farm off this land? I think probably not. But the fact is, we expect to be able to use this land in a way that's appropriate for the city residents, and that's what we're going to push for, and we hope to be able to use it in a way that it provides jobs and enhances the tax base. What we did not do was set out to create an area of land where we would not be able to use it and would be considered to be off limits. We're trying to have the most active use possible on this land, and we're optimistic that we'll get it. Does anyone want to add to that?
I mean, I think from our point of view, to talk about future use right now is speculative. The key thing is to get the best data about what's going on underneath the site. We already have some. We need more. The company's responsible for providing that information, and we trust they will. And then it will be up to the city to decide what the appropriate uses are that work for the city, and we will help from a cleanup point of view in helping them figure out how to get there. I think that's the answer. But we don't have the information we'd need to answer that question right now.
And any follow-up, Dan? Anything from BSM?
You got them all.
All right, so I want to say one thing, though, that I think is very important. This is a great day for the city. This project being completed its first phase is very important. From a public safety standpoint, this project kept us all up at night. First, worrying about the plant itself when it was abandoned, and then secondly, when workers were here and the community was subject to the demolition. And everything, thank God, and because of an awful lot of planning and people who worked very hard, went off without a hitch. There were no accidents on the site, thank God. People really went way above the call of duty in making sure that this was absolutely worked through step by step to protect the health and safety of the people of the city. The other thing I want to say about in-kind services. In-kind services, we're all public servants. We come to work during the day to serve the public. If it means on that day that we're going to work on Aerovox, that's exactly what we do. And then if we have to stay late, as Irene always did, stay late to get to the next thing. But this was a number one priority for EPA, for DEP, for the city of New Bedford, to make sure that we cleaned this up. Look around the city. We were one of the number one industrial cities in the 20th century, the 19th century. We want to reclaim the areas that have been spoiled for the use of our kids, our grandkids, and then beyond, and that's what we're doing here. I appreciate the Patrick administration, the Obama administration, and that's really what we're talking about here. Now, the only sovereign entity that's standing here right now is me as the mayor of the city of New Bedford, and without the partnership, none of this happens. So I want to thank not only the public servants who are here, Kurt Spalding, Ken Kimmel, and all of the staff and people who did this, but also the administration. If the Patrick administration did not say this was a priority and realize it was for us, it would not have happened. If the Obama administration, if Lisa Jackson didn't understand that this was a priority for the city of New Bedford, it would not have happened. So I want to thank them very, very much. This is a game changer for this area, and I look forward to being here one day, watching kids play, watching people perhaps compete. I can tell you this now, I don't think it'll be too long before we see those type of developments here. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.